Okay. All right. All right. So by giving it that 16 for the columns, this is what it does. That's it. It's a giant block of it's a giant paragraph tag right here. See it? It's very big. Doesn't need anything else. It's ridiculously easy. I mean, literally like 5 minutes after class, I went and just sort of, I Googled it. I'm like, okay, let's figure out how to do like flowing columns in CSS. I was thinking it was gonna be like I even tried to mess with it a little bit using Flex. I was like, yeah, maybe I can get it with Flex and I can do it this way, and it wasn't working. And I was like, I'll just, I'll look it up. And they're like, CSS columns, all browsers support this now. I'm like, where was this last year when we were trying to figure this out? So anyway, it makes it a lot easier to do. Things that are a little trickier to do are controlling like the height. If you only want to have a certain height and so many columns and then maybe a link to go read more, that you'd have to like adjust how much text you actually have in there to get it to the height that you want it. You can't really control that height too much. We could do something like inside this container. So I have it on the parent article text, not on the actual paragraph tag. Okay, so it's on article text. On this parent, we could do something like, because I'm not defining width or anything on it right now. Let's make it a little bigger. All I'm doing is saying, I just want you to be this many columns, and it's just figuring that out within the space that it has. Right? You could do something like define the height and say, I don't know, let's look at it. Let's make it like, we'll go like 10 or maybe 15% of viewport width. See that? Oh, I guess that does do it, but then see how it stretches out like this? Don't want that. Don't want that at all, right? It's still trying to like figure it out. We can give it a width to maybe help with that. So it'd be 100% of its parent, and its parent is article 1. Or, I'm sorry, class content, right? That's its parent. So do that, but it's still breaking that, of course, because it's text, and text will always break the bounds of a box that you put it in, right? Well, we can control that somewhat by saying, messing with overflow. Now, if we go click on the overflow, to read about it, so it determines whether to clip the content, so to crop it, right, to show you scroll bars, or just display it when it breaks the container that it's in, the bounds of that container. So what we're going to say is we're going to say hidden, so it's clipped with no scroll bars. Okay. So we'll go hidden, over low. Over low won't work. Oops. Now that keeps it there, and that's how you would crop it. But obviously there's more text, right? So things you could do, you could have a little preview, but you don't know kind of where it's going to stop really. So how do you indicate that there's more to read? Well, right after, I'm going to just collapse this. Oh, I guess, yeah, I want it to be inside this box. Right after this, after the tag? Yeah, probably. You could put a link. You could say, oh, we'll just have a link, and this link will be to, wherever the actual article is hosted, right? The page that has this article stub on it. Read more. Do that. But hey, look, it's not showing up. That's because it's inside that article tag, and that article tag is cutting it off with that overflow, right? So we'll need to stick it outside of that container. So it's not subjected, it's not subjected to these rules that we've set up over here. There we go, now it's there. Okay, but maybe it makes more sense to have it over here on the other side. So we're going to give it a ID. Actually, you know what? Instead of giving an anchor tag an ID, stick it inside a div. Div read more. All right. be read more. Let's give it a width, 100%. And then we'll say display flex because we want to move it over to the right hand side. So when you turn on flex, and then just say flex direction. No, not direction. Sorry. Flow. Hey, flow. Flex end. I have to look it up. Hold on. Forgot. It's only so much you can keep in your head at once. It is, no, it's not. Yeah, it is flex direction. Okay, so we can do flex direction and turn it. I was thinking we would want to do like, oh, justify content flex end is what I was thinking. But flex direction would work too. So direction, row, reverse. That will flip it. Puts it over there. But also justify content will work too. So you could do that, or justify content, flex end. Does the same thing. All right, both of those things will work. So yeah, so more or less that gets us where we like roughly kind of how we'd want. I mean, this is a little raw. Like normally you'd want sort of like an ellipse, or not an ellipse. I'm sorry, the 3 dots. That's an ellipse, right? Yeah. For some reason, I get that ellipse. Wait. No, an ellipse is an oval. Yeah. Ellipses is the 3 dots. That's what I get confused. It's like I think ellipse, and I'm like, oh, that's just an oval. But then the 3 dots, ellipses, and anyway. Or a character from the Odyssey, I don't know. Sorry, that's a bad joke. You know, so a lot of times you'll see things where like there'll be an overlay and it'll be sort of like, it'll look like it's fading out or something down here. You might see that like on New York Times. There'll be a big button that says like read more, and you click it and then that goes away and you get the whole article. So what that is that's actually like, that's another div, right, that has a background that is a gradient. And it's a transparent to white gradient, okay? And that div is just being moved around and placed on top of that text with that little button in it. And then you click that button and it just toggles the display to hidden, or it turns on an animation to make it like slide down, you know, CSS animation. So that's all it is, right? It's just like you're placing like a little piece of paper over the text that has a white to transparent gradient, and then you just have a little button that makes that go away. So you could do stuff like that. That's a little more advanced. I don't cover CSS animations in here as much as I would love to. We wouldn't get to spend as much time in Sketch drawing. You know, we would just be coding the entire semester, which for me that wouldn't be a bad thing. But you know, I don't know. It doesn't work for everybody. So you just got to be aware that that's a little rough, right? It's not the most obvious to your user that it's like, oh, I'm reading my article, and then, I mean, it helps that there's a read more right there, but it just sort of trails off. There's no indication, no triple dots or ellipses or anything like that. You know, if you wanted to really hard code it, you could go find where this text is and put in 3 little dots there, but that's going to look weird. So anyway, does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? Okay. All right, so you could do something like that, which I think I'm going to do to keep sort of our initial composition intact. I'm not going to mess with padding yet. Well, yeah, let's dump our other hero image in our next article stub down there, and then we will start playing around with all the rest of it. So that's essentially our structure for that. There's our byline. So that's article 1, right? That's our structure for our articles. So we just take this whole thing, copy it. You want to make sure that if you've collapsed it, you're also selecting this little box, the ellipses box. That's actually what it is. Make sure you're selecting that, because if you don't, it won't copy the contents of this collapsed container, of this collapsed div. Does that make sense? I'm collapsing it so that I don't have to scroll and select everything. I can just collapse it, select all that, just this, hit copy, come down here and paste it, and it'll paste expanded. But now you just got to make sure that you do that. Cool? Yeah, everyone's good? All right. So if we remember, hero image 1. All right, so that's the article. We still need to do our image. I think we're going to keep the same. The text is going to change, but the same class names will stay because am I even using that? I'm not even using it. Yeah, so it's going to stay. I'm only using article text and, oh, because we haven't done any styling, that's why. But for now, it's going to stay that same way. Let's do our next image. Let's kind of come in, make sure we're putting it in the right place. Hero image 1. We can just sort of copy that too. There's no sense in writing more than you have to. This is going to be roughly the same structure. We're just going to change this to 2. And then we're going to change this to be nothing. You might want to stick something in there. I don't know. It looks a little goofy without text. Let's not now. We're not going to stick anything in it. So I don't need this part. I just need my image. And then the rest of this can change. Are you in H3? Do you know? Ways to get travel discounts. Is it Manuel Vasquez again? Man, Manuel Vasquez, he likes to write. We'll just keep that the same. Particularly, okay, it's the same text. All right, well, that's fine. We'll just deal with it. If you wanted, you could, you know what? I might as well just stick in different text. It's not like it's gonna take forever to do. Type, article, travel. There we go. Let's grab this one. Okay. Video games are also great for stress relief. If you're mad at your boss, play a video game. It's a better way to get it out of you than boxing? What? Just imagine you're pounding your boss and you don't lose. What? Sorry. I like to read these articles and it's like, where are they getting this? What? Today, most people get on average 4 to 6 hours of exercise every day. Are you kidding? No, they don't. No, they don't. What? This sounds like a really bad article. Down here?
Yeah, they use that instead of it's like.
Oh, stress of the chances. Where is it?
I think it's even lower.
Oh, it was down here.
It's all the way to the bottom.
Oh.
It's a better way to get it out of you than boxing.
That annoys me. I've changed stuff like that. Bet you it's a high school article. Anyway, there we go. Although I've seen college articles that are pretty bad too. So, stick it in there. Hey, sweet. Cool. All good. Now we just need to stick our image in there. So, hero image 1. Just going to copy this because it's going to be pretty much the same, just a little narrower. So our height is going to be a little different. We're going to figure out that ratio. So I'm just going to select the image and go 1440. That's my 100%. 572.94. So 1440 divided by 572. Oh, I'm doing that wrong. 572.94 times 1440. What am I doing? 1440. So 39.78%. So I know that my height needs to be, we're going to call it 40. And then a different background image, 2. All right. It broke. All right, here image 2 is there. Oh, haha. Let's do that. There we go. Did you guys catch that? I didn't change the class name in the CSS, but I had already changed it in the HTML, so it wasn't loading in the image. You remember this has to be the same as this. So if you think that you've done it, just double check that you're consistent. Like, you should have a checklist of things to go through when you're debugging. Typos, look for typos. Proper punctuation, right? Your semicolons, your colons, your angle brackets, all that stuff. And then consistencies between class names and ID names. That's a big one. Okay, everything's saved. Yay! Cool. All right, so it's all in there. It's looking decent. Kind of come up here. Now we're going to start. We're going to go back up to the top, and then work our way down through the document and do spacing and margin and all that junk. All right, so to get rid of this goofiness going on with our nav up here, one thing that we should do and can do. Right, I don't need this so much anymore. Find your nav. Now this is where we're gonna do some stuff with positioning that we haven't messed with too much because I'm not a giant fan of it. So there's a characteristic called position, and it can have a couple different values. By default, it is all relative. Relative is the value. And what that means is that the placement of one element depends on the placement of the element before it, right, in your HTML, right? So everything like hero image 1 depends on where it is in the page when it's rendered in the browser based off of where all this stuff before it is. Does that make sense? Okay, so they take up space within the page and they push all the other elements down, right? There's another setting called absolute. You can see there's a bunch of settings: static, sticky, inherent, absolute. Absolute takes it out of the flow of the document. This is what we refer to as the flow, the relative positioning, like everything pushing everything else around. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah. So absolute will take it out. Fixed will also take it out. And off the top of my head, I don't remember what the difference is. Let's look. Bless you. Some other ones. So static, fixed. Doesn't leave space for the element. Instead, position it at a very specific point relative to the screen's viewport. So the top left corner. And then you just give it pixel to position places to be, and then it will be there. Absolute doesn't leave space for the element, so they both kind of do that same thing. This positions at a specific point relative to its closest position ancestor. Okay, and what that means is just where is it if it's inside of another container and that container has a relative position, then it just puts it somewhere close to that container, that parent. Okay, but the closest ancestor to hero image 1 is the body tag, because the body is the parent, right? This, you would think maybe it would be content, but it's not, because I close content here, it's nav. So that makes this div and this nav siblings, right? It's not a parent-child at all. Does that make sense to everybody? Sort of? Yeah? Okay. So fixed or absolute will work in this instance. We're going to start with absolute and see what happens. So what you'll see is that instead of this having a white space, it's not going to have that anymore, and this image is going to bump up to the top. But obviously that screws up now how our placement works. Okay. So one way around that is to do one or two things. We've got a nav class content. We're going to have to restructure our HTML a little bit. We want to still have the nav inside of a div that fits into content, right? Does that make sense? So that it will stay in the middle of our screen for us, and all these rules that we've set up for content will still apply, so it stays consistent with everything else. So all we have to do is we just take nav, bump it over one, and then we put it inside of a div, and that div is now going to be class content. We're going to take it off of nav in a second. All right. Do that. And then come over here and take off position absolute. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, take off position absolute. No, I'm sorry, we don't have to do any of that. We don't have to fix any of this. We just got to restructure our HTML a little bit. So now the nav, because it has absolute, right, will just do whatever content is doing. As opposed, before it was just doing whatever body was doing, and body's not doing anything. Body's like, oh, I'm 100% and I've got no padding and margin. Does that make sense? Oh, by the way, that little funky white space we were getting when we full screened our image that was giving us that little wiggle, you get rid of it by, I totally forgot. It's the user agent style sheet. It's the default stuff the browser does to the page. You get rid of it by just putting padding 0 and margin 0 on your body. So the entire document won't have any padding or margin to start off with because it was just a little bit of extra padding on that left. Does that make sense? Okay, get rid of it and then you got your full screen. But all right, so this was, this is mildly complicated because it's not super intuitive, but the absolute setting on position tells nav to just do whatever its parent is doing. Be wherever the parent is, right? It's like one of those little leash backpacks that you see at the zoo for kids that are terrible. That's what it is. The kid has position absolute. The kid can go wherever they want relative to the parent. Does that make sense? That's what this document, that's what that does essentially. The nav can go wherever it wants relative to, it's got the stupid little monkey leash thing. Leashes for kids. I don't get it. Whereas fixed would be like cutting the leash and just letting the kid run off and do whatever they want. All right. So my kid's at the zoo. Her position is fixed. Sort of, not really. Never mind. I took it too far. Anyway, I always take my metaphors too far and they fall apart. But how do you know where they end, right? So it's just going to do whatever content's doing. Cross your fingers. Oh. All right. Sort of. That has messed up flex a little bit, but I think that's because we didn't define a width here. Let's give it a width, tell it to be 100% of its parent. Whoa! All right, that didn't, all right, hey, let's debug. Time to debug. So I have solved this before, and I could just go check that. All right. Class content, you are 75%, but you've got no height, even though you should, what? Yeah. Telling me it's not closed. Huh, that should have worked. Why are you going all the way over there? Oh, do you have a specific? Well, no. You should be 50% of nav. Nav is 100% of content, and content is 75% of viewport width. That's very weird. The math checks out. Well, we could do this. Because I did define a width for the body, I could change this to an actual percentage. See if that fixes it. Nope. Alright, so it's not doing it. I could just do this in the browser too. So you're going to come across stuff like this. And instead of coming over here and blankly staring at your code and trying to figure out, this is where despair lies. Okay, this is the abyss, and the abyss will stare back at you. This is where despair lies. Like for me, I come back to the code and I'm just like, if I don't get it right away, I mean, there's a long list of tedious stuff you can do to try to figure it out in the code. But if you can't see what it's actually doing when you make changes, it's really frustrating. I mean, we're monkeys. We hit things and something happens and we put the two together, right? Physics. That's physics in a nutshell. Give me my PhD already. There's physics. I figured it out. But yeah, it makes more sense to come over here and play around in your browser and kind of just be like, oh, what's going on? Like, turn some stuff off. All right, so that obviously pops over. Nav, turn off the width. That is definitely messing it up. But why is that width messing it up? Don't know. So we could do, 75 there, and that will get us where we want. So it's kind of ignoring the width of content for some reason, even though it should inherit. So it's getting its position from content, but it's not bound by the setting of content, which I find to be, so like you'll notice content has, this content class has no height because the nav has its position, it's been taken out of it. Does that make sense? That's why there's no height. Like if I mouse over content, you know how you can see up there in the top left-hand corner, it tells me dimensions. That's how big that container is. So it's got width because I've defined the width. I've set the width in the CSS. Normally it would get its height from the stuff that's inside of it, all the nav stuff, right? So if I go back down to nav and I turn off position absolute, I come back up to content, now content has height. Does that make sense? So the position has gone back to relative. That's the default. Okay. If I turn that back on, the height for content has now gone down to 0. So that's what you're doing when you set that position. You're taking it out of the document. All right. Absolute will make it put itself where content says it should be, but that's only going to work so far. So if I change this to fixed, it won't work at all. Oh, it does work. Never mind. Okay. I don't think it was going to work. But anyway, absolute is the better way to go in this instance. Okay. Hi. Thank you. All right. So then we still need to define a width to get it to stay where we want. But wait, now it is staying where we want. Oh, because I made this. Yeah, no, that's fine. How are you suddenly staying where you're supposed to be? Oh, because I gave it a width. That's right. So giving it an actual width to be that is the same value as what we want it to be, this is what you have to do. Does that make sense to everybody? It's not going to inherit the width from the parent. It will inherit its position from the parent, but not its width. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. All right. Okay, so let's come back over here. Now let's change this value to what we want it to be. All right, let's give it some margin around it. So we're going to go margin. Now we're going to do the shorthand. Instead of saying margin / or dash top, dash right, dash left, dash bottom, we're going to do just margin and then give it the 4 values. Remember, top, right, bottom, left. It goes clockwise. It starts at the top, goes clockwise. So I want some space at the top. You can either just wing it, or you can come back up to your document and select it and say, hey, how much space do you have? You have 31 pixels. That's like 2 rems, right? So I can just say, okay, 2 rems, nothing on the left and the right, 2 rems. Well, you just do that. So 2 values, because we want the bottom and the top to be the same. And then we want the left and the right to be the same, right? So left and right, when you give 2 values, this top, bottom, or this first value is top and bottom. The second value is right and left. Okay. If you give it 4, you can give it 1 value, and it'll do it for everything. You can give it 2 values, and it does top, bottom, right, left. Okay. Or you can give it 4 values, and each individual. Okay. Can't do 3. Cool. All right. All right. So that will bump it down a little bit. Yay! That's what we wanted. That's more or less the spacing, I think. Now we just need to play with the color. All right, so let's do the H3, nav H3, color white. Back, take a look. Hey, look, it's white. Do I have other H3s? Oh no, that's size. So this one should be font size. We want this to be a little bigger than what it is, but not so big that it needs like an H4 or something. Although you could technically do. Oh, it is an H3. So let's start off at 2 rems. That's a good size. But notice it's not like aligned anymore. That sort of stuff usually bothers me. Right. What you can do with this is, because the H3 and the div menu are siblings, you can come back up to nav, which has flex turned on, and you can play around with its alignment. Oops. So if we come back up to Flexbox, we can say, hey, how do I align stuff in the middle? Align items center. So then align items center, come back. Hey, now it's lined back up. Does that make sense? So if you increase the font size on one thing, there's no reason why you can't get everything aligned, right? And that will bother me. So if I see stuff that you have that's not aligned, it'll count against you. Yeah, because you can do it. I know you can. I believe in you. All right, so let's play with our nav menu. Oops, anchor tags here. Oh, hey, look, I already got one. So we just want to get the kind of ugly underline and that blue color off. So let's go color white, and then text decoration is how you control. Well, actually, we'll go look at it. So text decoration is how you control underlines. So text formatting to underline, overline, or line through. Line through would be that strike through, right? If you want to make something look like it doesn't work. So text decoration, we want none. Save it. Yeah, there we go. So a little difficult to read again over that. I don't know if I actually put, these are a little difficult to read too. You can just do the same thing you did on the H3, I'm sorry, down here on our H1, this filter drop shadow. Just grab that guy. Oops, make sure you get all of it. Come back up, dump it on here. Might be a little intense for what we're doing. Oh, hey, that's not my browser. I was like, wow, I didn't do anything. There we go. It's a little bit of drop shadow under there. It's a little big, but let's select it and play with the setting real quick. So we got drop shadow 3, 3, and then 4 for our blur. Let's change our blur to like 2, maybe 3. I don't know, 4. Yeah, 3. 2, 2. It's a little better. You can do that. You can maybe think about doing it for your logo too. If your logo is actually just text, right? If you have an image, it, of course, it'll be a little different. 2, 2, 3. All right, come back to the code. 2, 2, 3. Cool. All right. So that's all looking decent. There's some other things we can do. I know did we talk about hovers and stuff ever? Pseudo classes? No. Okay. So there's these things called pseudo classes, which are state changes. So you get things like hover is a really common one. So if your mouse goes over something, that will change. Okay. It helps to indicate whether or not something is active, like a button or something you can interact with. It's a signifier essentially, a sign that says, "Hey, I can do something." Right. If you take interaction design, we talk all about signifiers and affordances. So let's do one real quick. So nav, they're really common on menus, nav menu. How you activate it or how you set it is you target your element, like we're doing here, nav menu, anchor tags. Then you do a colon, and then you can see there's a bunch of them. Bunch. So after, before, first letter, active, selection, checked, default, disabled, empty. Anyway, lots of stuff. Hey, look, there's hover. So we want hover. So anytime we hover over it, well, what should we do? Color changes are popular. Background color, so you highlight it essentially. So we could do that. We could say, add a background color of. Let's make the background color. Actually, we'll do this. Background color will be white, and then the color will change to black. Okay. Yay! So it makes the button look like a button essentially. You could add some padding to each one of these to kind of make the button a little bigger so it's not like touching the sides. But hey, now it feels like a button, right? Other things you can do that I've seen that are kind of fun. Just comment that out. Oops, not you. You could do, so that text decoration that we turned off, you could do line through. Seen this before. It's kind of nice. It's a little more minimal. It's like, oh, okay, you actually see me. Does that make sense? Like, you know, you can do just change the color. Like maybe do not pick this color. Like the, you know, change it to something like that. So then that's hard to see though. But does that, everyone's kind of cool? Understand? Okay. I happen to kind of like, I do like the line through. Let's find out if we can affect the thickness of the line through line. Oh, you could blink it. I don't know that we can actually could do a wavy one. That would be kind of cool. Look at Internet Explorer. Poor Internet Explorer. Like, I don't care about CSS. I'm gonna ignore it. That's sorry. The longer you work with the web and code and stuff, the more you realize that Internet Explorer is just that kid in the corner that is just pouting and wants to not come to the party. They just want everyone to notice them, but to not actually like have any fun. Yeah. What was I doing? Yeah, line style. Forgot. Text decoration, line, blink, 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 blink. Text decoration, style, wavy. Let's do that. That sounds cool. Wavy. Reload. Oh, that's nuts. Okay, so then we're also going to change the color of the font to be black. And we'll change the filter. Drop shadow, 2 pixels, 2 pixels, 3 pixels, white. All right, this will make it more noticeable. That's really dumb. That's great. Anyway, okay, so you know, play around with it. All right, you can do different things. Right, you can have fun with it. Oh, there's so much more we could do that would be a lot of fun. Anyway, I'm gonna stop because I'm letting my nerd flag fly.
What if you want like the little like to indicate that it drops down like the menu?
Oh, if you want to do a drop down?
Yeah, how do you get that little triangle and like, you know, or most people use a triangle, but like yeah.
So that is, you can either have an image there, or there are Unicode symbols. So there's actually like a symbol you can stick in there. Unicode symbols. So all these little pictures. They have different codes that you can put in. Let's see if we can find it. Oh, I don't want to just scroll for it. Let's search triangle. So like one of these, so downwards, probably want the downwards triangle head. Downward triangle. No? There we go. So like this one, right, would be probably what you'd want to use. So the Unicode is this, but the actual HTML that you need to stick in is this. Let's see if I remember how to do this. Uh-oh. Should be rendering it, it's not. Include Unicode in HTML. Should make sure I do this right. Character reference is what we want. Yeah, UTF-8 is what you want to do, so. Okay. So we should be able to just stick it like right here. Oops. I think that's gonna work. Nope. That's not even seeing it. I don't think it's that. No, alright. I gotta remember how to do this. Sorry, I'm just trying to remember. Yeah. That's our HTML code, but same type. Use Unicode, HTML code in HTML. Yeah, that should have worked. Weird. Oh, that's right. It wasn't displaying in the browser to begin with, so that one didn't. Never mind. That's why it didn't work. So because it's not showing up right here, right? It should be, but it's not. It is here, and that is the code. Huh. Any of these? We're having issues showing up here. I'm just trying to decide if it's a browser issue or if it's. It says empty font. No, there's not actually anything there. So it's a glitch on the. Oh, okay. It's not actually loading the fonts. Okay, so it's just a glitch with the website, not with us. So why? Oops. Why is my Unicode not showing up? I shouldn't need to stick it in. There's Claire with the tough questions.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just trying to think like why it's not showing up here.
You have to do the like Unicode UTF-8 thing at the top of the HTML.
Do I not have that? It should be in my.
It should be there, but
Yeah, it's right there. That's part of the boilerplate that I use, the HTML, and then use the UTF-8. I don't do enough Unicode to really like to know it off the top of my head. Yeah, use the HTML entity you find. That's what I did. Yeah. The heck, yo. Dar. I'll use dar. See if that works. That one worked. So maybe what I was putting in was not UTF-8. There's some others. So you can do that, or you can do things like there's Font Awesome, which has a bunch of icons that are CSS icons. All right. Get started is a good place to go. So use their CDN. CDN stands for Content Delivery Network. And what it is, it's a link that you stick in. It's just like if you're loading a font, like a web font, right? You have to stick a link to where that font is hosted somewhere, either locally or globally. Like if you have it in if you download the whole font package, which will inflate your website and make it longer to load, or you can, but also makes it robust. Like if their delivery network goes down, you can still load your font if you have it local, right? the same thing applies here. You can download all the icons. No, just download. Which is not, yeah, so it's actually really tiny. That's good. So there's all the icons. We're going to take, we just want the CSS. Pretty sure we just want the CSS. Did you just open with Sublime? You jerk. Let me change this real quick. Yeah, okay. But you're still keeping your Sublime. Okay. Font family, web font, fonts. Okay, so it needs those links. So we want. Oops, where'd my. Oh, all right. Well. So if you download this, just take the whole thing and put it inside of your document. Okay. You could have another folder called resources, but just stick it in here. It's fine. If you want to incorporate the rest of this into, you don't need the less or the SCSI stuff at all, because we're not writing. That's a different way of writing CSS. It's a compiler for CSS. So you can write CSS in a different way and then hit compile and it will generate actual CSS. It's a little faster. It's more advanced web stuff. You can pretty much ignore that. Really what you need are these two folders. But to be safe, you could also do this. Well, let's actually incorporate it. Let's take font awesome CSS in there, and then we'll take fonts and pull it out here. I'm just going to delete the rest of that. Okay, so these are the actual files that have the images for all the different icons that Font Awesome would have. This is a digression, but it's okay. So if we look at the icons here, it's like all these different icons that we have access to now, we can use, right? So you just download it, stick it inside of your, grab the CSS for it. You just need one of those CSS files. You don't need both of them. One's a minified version, which means it's had all the spaces taken out of it and all the formatting. So it's like one long line, which just makes the file size a little smaller. This has the actual fonts and the images that the CSS will refer to, which I closed. But we can open over here now. So here's that CSS for this, for the fonts. Here it's loading those other fonts. That's why we need it. So this /fonts. Right, it's going out of the CSS folder and going into the fonts folder. So you just want to make sure this path is right. Does that make sense? That you've put your font folder where this path says, or you've edited these paths to point where your fonts are. It's just like trying to load images or from your CSS file or something. And then this is just all the rules for how to use fonts. FAU underline. These are all the classes. That's animation, rotate 90, stack 1, teach list before. So these are just rules. These are the actual codes for the fonts. All right, so you can see there's a lot, right? Easiest way is to come over here and just be like, hey, what font do I want? I think maybe I like these hands. We could take this hand pointer and rotate it. So this is how you would put it in your HTML. Okay, so it's italic. It's italic. Gosh, now I don't even remember. I never use that itag. Moz HTML. Oops, I misspelled that. Should be italic. Instance. Let's just check our reference. I element. It's a range of text set off from normal text for some reason. For any reason. Okay, typically display, yeah, it's italic. I do not recommend ever styling your font with I elements. Okay, so if you need italic fonts, don't stick an I element in your HTML. Just unless you want one word inside of that to be italic. Try to do most of your styling in CSS. The I element is old. But if we want it in here, then we'll want that hand. I reckon if you're going to do this, if you're going to use the Font Awesome stuff, come to their website. It's going to be way easier to come to the website, see what you want, grab it, and then find out how to stick it in there. So I'm going to do this. I want the hand. Boom. I class. FA is just Font Awesome. Okay, shorthand for Font Awesome. So it's using the general Font Awesome class from the Font Awesome CSS. And then it's using the Font Awesome hand pointer O class from the Font Awesome CSS. Area hidden true, and then boom. So right now, I also need to make sure I link to that style sheet. CSS Font Awesome CSS. All right, come back. I broke. It's our problem here, buddy. Font Awesome CSS not found. Oh, that / is killing it. Oh, got a hand. But obviously that's not the way we want the hand to look, right? We should rotate down to tell you that it's going down. So then what you can do is come over here. So you can do this a couple different ways. You could give it another class name so that you can just rotate it that way. You could, in your CSS, just grab this FA hand pointer O and add a rule to it. So just say class FA hand pointer O, and then say rotate. Nope. How do we rotate it? CSS rotation. Oh, translate. Sorry. Translate. Filter? Yeah, I think it's a filter. Filter, translate. Nope, it's not a filter. All right, I better just Google it. I forgot. Transform. Duh. Transform. There we go. Rotate, and then just tell it how do you want it to rotate. Well, we want to go 180 degrees. So shoop, right? Yay, not points down. Then we can also flip it. So the thumb is pointing on, you know, if you want to get really specific about its position. So we can do transform, rotate, and then flip. CSS transform. Can't remember if it's reflect or if it, oops, not you. Sorry, I'm not a fan of W3 schools. I don't like their website. Rotate scale, translate, matrix. Huh. CSS, reflect. Oh, might not be a thing that's in here yet. That was a year ago. Yes and no. That's a good animation. Look at that. You can set that up in CSS. Color. Sorry, I'm scanning really. Oh yeah, math. There we go. Yeah, we're not gonna do it. It's too difficult right now. That's weird. They don't have reflect in there. You'd think I could rotate it in the Z though, 180 degrees. That might actually work. So in this is, I feel like I'm getting way ahead of myself. See what you did, Claire? It's all your fault. Hey Alex, how do you do this simple thing? Well, let me show you. Let me show you an hour later. And then you're learning about 3D rotations in CSS. Okay, we're gonna stop. I'm gonna stop messing with it here. Otherwise, there's a lot more we could do. I think in the back of my head. Damn it, Alex, stop looking for it. My fingers are betraying me. Transform 3D. So you can do 3D translations, which are really fun. So you play with like the X, the Y, and the Z axis. So X, obviously, on a 2D plane, horizontal, Y, up and down. Z then is like forward and back, right? So, well, we'd want to flip this on the Y then. So we'll kind of rotate it. So transform, translate 3D, but that's translation. I want to rotate. Can I just do a rotate 3D? Yeah, rotate 3D. Rotate 3D, 0. Oh, yeah, okay. Got it. So then we can do transform rotate 180. And then we could do, does it need to be a transform? Do we call it with transform? Yep. So you can string transforms, different transforms together. So we have a 2D rotation of 180 degrees. And then we're going to do a 3D rotation. So rotate 3D. We're going to do 0 for the X. Although we could just do this all in a 3D rotation. Let's just do it this way. X is that. We'll go 180 for Y, 0 for Z, and 0 for A. Do I need my commas? I do need my commas. Okay. Okay. So, damn it. Alright, it didn't work. I wonder if it has to do with that guy. Let's try our 180 here. Oh, not working. Man. Doing what I was hoping. Oh, it's totally ignoring that. What did I do wrong? Oh, it just wants numbered. No, 60 degrees. Yeah. Oh, it's a coordinate. I see. Describe the X coordinate. Oh, I gotcha. I gotcha. So, vector denoting the axis of rotation. That's weird that it would do it that way. Huh. That is really interesting how they want you to do that. Alright, that's way more complicated than it needs to be, so I'm not going to use it. So we're just going to use rotate, and then we will just do 180. Oops. Okay, so bringing us back to where we were like 20 minutes ago. Anyway, alright, so that's good styling. So that's how you would stick some font awesome stuff in there. Just find the ones you want to use. Click on them, it'll tell you. Once you've also downloaded the CSS and the SVG, all the dependencies that you need, the assets that you need for that, and you have them in the right place, then you can use any of these things. They are useful. It's funny, there is a hand down. So, whatever you feel like. Use whatever you want. They're fun. Okay. Let's move on and style the rest of our page. We need to do this. And it should do the bottom one because we use the same class names. Looking at our sketch file, let's just click on it. So it's 58. 58 divided by 16 is like 3.75, close to. So then we're going to come down here and we're going to say article text. Let's find it first to make sure that we are getting the right one. So it's article 1. This will be article 1. Oh, it's 90, sorry. And then we want the H3 inside of article 1. Not the direct, it's not the direct descendant, but it is a descendant. Okay, it's not the child, it's a descendant. So H3, because it's got that div. If we did the right angle bracket, it would be looking for an H3 that was an immediate child, right? Does that make sense? You guys remember that from Tuesday? So we'll do the space, and then we'll just do font size. What did I say? So 3.75 rem. Also on this one, the font is the Open Sans, and we want it to be the slab. The slab is what we picked. And I picked a different font for my titles. Slab bold. So I need to also code that in. So rem font family Roboto. What was it? Roboto slab. Spell slab right. Slab. Our color. It's a little different. It's gray. 707070. Oh, sorry, not font color. Look what I did. Color. And then I think that's all we need. All right. All that space that just showed up there, you guys remember what that is? It's all that space that just showed up. Anybody remember? Why is there suddenly so much space here? Yeah, because there's margins on your headers. There's default margins on your headers. So you just gotta take them off, right? Or get it down to what you want it to be. I'm a little bit less on the top, a little bit less on the bottom. So then we'll come here and we'll say margin. I have a habit of just doing the margin, not margin top or margin bottom or whatever. We're gonna set, we'll go 0.5 rems and 0. Well, I don't want 8, I want more than that. Let's go 1, 0. It's a lot less. That looks better. Might bump it up to. You can either grab it and be like, oh, it's 15, so that's actually like 1 rem. That's fine. But there's less here. Like it looks like more because we're kind of going off the G. We make these outlines real quick. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that'll give us closer. So it's like 10 there. It's like almost 2 there. So if we want different values for top and bottom, then let's actually go like 2 rem here, 0 for our right. We'll go 1 rem for the bottom and 0 for the left. And that pushes it down. It gets it closer to Manuel, so it looks more like it belongs down here and less like it is part of that. So it's all about like how you space your stuff. All right, let's do Manuel and the date. Spent too long on the other stuff. All right, let's do our byline. So it's a ID, byline, font style to make it italic, font weight to make it thinner. So the lower the number, the thinner the font. This is if you've loaded the whole font family, right? If you've over here in your HTML, if you're linking to that entire font family, which is what I'm doing. I know it's the entire one because it just says Open Sans. If I had picked certain values, it would have a bunch like 100, 200, 300, whatever. The benefit of doing that as opposed to the entire family is that it loads your page faster if you just pick the exact fonts that you want. The downside, of course, is flexibility. If you want to change it to something that you haven't loaded, well, it's not going to show up. Right? So those are your pros and cons. All right, let's go look. Oh, we also need display flex. And then we'll do, let's just do that for now. Cool. That's pretty much what I want. Color, I want it to be a lighter gray. Let's go, that's good. And then we'll do, where's my byline? well, we'll do byline first child. So just on the very first paragraph tag, we're going to do some padding on the right. So you can either do padding right or just padding. Let's go come back here and take a look. It's 20, so I'll go 1.5 rems, or 1.25 rems. Would be 20 pixels. Okay. Hey, it didn't work. Why didn't that work? That first child thing didn't. That's funny. Byline first child should have worked. Oh, right, duh. Sorry, it's siblings, not children, so I have to do byline P, first child. I gotta target the paragraph tag. There we go. Okay, still a little bit more space right there than I kind of want. What is that? Yeah, so that's more. And the reason for that is that there's a bit of margin that this also adds. So take it off. Margin 0. Did I not save it? I saved it. Oops, going to the wrong thing. Interesting. All right, there's no margin. Oh, right, because I need it on the paragraph. It's the paragraph tag, not the thing itself. So you can do byline P margin 0. There we go. So all right, it gets it closer. That's good distance. I like that. Overall, pretty happy. I want to put a little bit more space right here. So I think what I'll do is margin 0, 0, and then we'll give it a little bit at the bottom. So we'll go 0.5 rems and 0. So that's going to give it 8 pixels of space at the bottom. Yeah, let's go full rem. Just be aware of the relationships you set up when you're doing that kind of spacing. This little bit of space that we have, this line of space we have at the top, is this P tag. It's this P tag right here. So we actually take that out. Should bump up. Yeah. So if that's bothering you, take it out. I'm going to stick a little bit of space around here and then call it good. That is going to be space after, so we've got our read more there. With a little bit of, we'll probably stick a little padding at the top of our read more. Let's find our read more. Padding top. We'll go 1 rem there. Probably want less, but let's check. Let's see what 1 rem looks like. That's a little much. Let's go down to 0.5. That's better. And then for the overall parent, and not the read more, but the parent, okay, which is the article 1, we're going to add some space at the bottom of article 1. Do I not have article? There it is. Article 1, H3. All right, let's stick it up here. Article 1. We'll go padding. Actually, let's do margin. Margin bottom. Remember, margin pushes other, keeps the boundaries of the div the same and pushes other divs away, other containers. So margin bottom, we'll call it 2 rems. More space. Cool. Does that make sense to everybody? Or you're gonna just watch the video a bunch of times? You made a video. I don't have to. It doesn't have to make sense right now. All right. So really, what I've done is I've set all that up. Now this stuff should also look the same, except for that p tag, which I'll take out, because we use the same classes and IDs because it's essentially this just repeated. Does that make sense? They're stubs, right? Article stubs. We're repeating the articles. So if you use the same classes and IDs, then you don't have to do the same work twice. If you want it to look different, then you do. Oops. Let me get rid of the p tag at the bottom here. All right, back. Cool. So, yeah, that is how you would do that. All right. Now yours, of course, are going to be different because you have different designs. So I want you to take it one step at a time. All of next week will be working time. You have 20 minutes of work time today, and I will help you through all of it. So if you're having issues, let me know. But really, it's just be methodical about it, right? Do your HTML first. Don't worry about how it looks. Get everything into your content column that you want. Right, do those passes, right? Build your foundation, that's your HTML. Build your structure, that's more of your HTML with a little bit of CSS. Remember to go top to bottom through all your passes. Don't try to do like a little bit at the bottom and then jump to the top and do a little bit at the top, right? Because you're gonna mess things up, okay? Just do them in waves, right? So like little phases as you go through. Cool? Okay. Really study your sketch file and get an understanding of how things should be grouped. If you haven't, go through your sketch file and group things the way you think the HTML should be structured. It's like a rough draft for your HTML. Cool? All right, just take it step by step and everything should be okay.